Things like this usually don't happen in a community like ours. It's very tragic.
Investigators release autopsy reports today for 8 members of an Ohio family killed execution style.
We begin tonight with a deadline that has passed for the mother of 2 missing children from Rexburg.
Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Amanda, and if you're new here, we talk about all things true crime related. Today's case, it's a difficult one. It's one of those stories that leaves you wondering how something like this could even happen. But sadly, I think a lot of cases that we discuss are that way. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the murder of 7-year-old Jamilya Lewis, 3-year-old Jasmine Lewis, and the attempted murder of their mother, Dorothy Lewis. This took place in 1993 in Eustis, Florida. Now, before we jump into the video, please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this with a friend so we can get to 1,000 subscribers. I have a good amount of new followers after the Stephen Lawson trial recap, so hello to all of you. Please make sure to leave a 5-star rating if you would. I want to remind everyone watching or listening that I'm no expert in this case or any of the other cases that we discuss. So if I'm missing something or if I got something incorrect, please feel free to comment below. It's important that we get the facts right. Now, as I prefer to do, I want to share a little bit about who the Lewis family was. Jasmine A. Lewis was born on February 6, 1989. At just 3 years old, Jasmine was joyful and a curious toddler, full of life and wonder. Her older sister, Jamilya A. Lewis, was born on November 1st, 1985, making her just 7 years old and a second-grade student at Eustis Heights Elementary School. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. That's not at all what I thought it was when I saw it, but she was on the high honor roll and enjoyed singing and performing. Her mother described her as the prissy one and often noted her as liking frilly and girly things. Now, at the time this took place, their mother, Dorothy Lewis, was 35 years old. Her first husband, James Arthur Lewis, passed away on Christmas Day in 1989 from meningitis. Despite this, Dorothy worked hard to provide a stable and loving home for her daughters. Her life was deeply rooted in faith, family, and community. On the night of January 30th, 1993, it was a bit after 10 p.m., a woman arrived at a Winn-Dixie store in Eustis, Florida. Outside the store, she noticed 2 individuals, Richard Henyard and Alfonza Smalls, sitting on a bench near the entrance. When she exited the store, the 2 males stood up. One walked ahead of her and the other followed behind her. As she approached her car, one of them stood near her bumper and didn't say anything. Sensing that something was off, the woman quickly got in her car and locked the doors. As she drove off, she saw the 2 males walking back toward the store. Moments later, Dorothy Lewis and her 2 daughters, Jamilya and Jasmine, arrived at that same Winn-Dixie. Dorothy had gone to Winn-Dixie that night to pick up ingredients for a strawberry pretzel salad she had planned to make for the church fellowship dinner the following day. She entered the store with her daughters around 10 p.m., and she would later recall noticing a few people sitting on the bench near the entrance. At about 10:15, Dorothy and her daughters exited the store. After placing both her girls in the front seat of their car, a 1989 blue Chrysler 5th Avenue, she walked around the back of the vehicle to the driver's side. At this moment, she was approached by Smalls, who pulled a handgun from his waistband and ordered her to get in the back seat of her car with her daughters. Henyard got behind the wheel with Smalls sitting in the front seat and giving him driving directions. During the car, according to Dorothy's later testimony, Smalls repeatedly told her to keep her daughters quiet as they became frightened and started getting upset and crying. The pair drove Dorothy and her daughters to a secluded rural area about 15 minutes away from the store. Once they stopped, Dorothy was ordered to get out of the car and Henyard assaulted her on top of the trunk. While this was happening, Dorothy noticed the gun on the trunk, and when she went to reach for it, Smalls was able to grab it before her, taunting her, saying, "You're not going to get the gun, bitch." Dorothy recalled Smalls rushing Henyard to be done while he was undressing. After Smalls assaulted Dorothy, Henyard ordered her to kneel, and when she objected doing so, Henyard pushed her on the ground and shot her in the leg. Dorothy said that she had realized she was going to be shot again, so she decided to fight with him over the gun. But this was her last memory before she found herself walking down a remote road. Despite her injuries, she walked nearly a mile to the closest home where she would ask the homeowner for help. The homeowner initially didn't believe her, fearing that it was actually burglars trying to get in his home, saying that she was injured. He would end up calling 911 at around 4:15 a.m. Dorothy was taken to a nearby hospital where doctors found that a hollow point bullet had entered her skull and fragmented. Small pieces had reached her brain tissue, and to treat this injury, surgeons would have to remove her skull and replace it with 4 metal plates and screws. She had sustained gunshot wounds to her neck, mouth, and the center of her forehead. While she was receiving treatment, police began searching for her daughters. They would return to the Winn-Dixie to question employees and customers, hoping people would have seen or heard something. By 9 a.m., officers were searching a nearby field with grass in some areas as high as their chest. The search was focused in this one section of grass because there had been blood spatter on the road. Sadly, both Jamilya and Jasmine were located in that field. Autopsies later would confirm that each died from gunshot wounds to the head, and in Jasmine's case, powder markings around her left eye indicated that her eye had been open at the time she was shot. From the beginning, investigators believed that whoever committed this crime had been familiar with the area. The location where Dorothy was found was extremely isolated. Soon after the girls' bodies was discovered, one officer mentioned Richard Henyard's name. He said it in passing as someone who may be capable of doing something like this. And around the same time, a witness came forward. They said that Richard seemed anxious the evening before about the law enforcement helicopter circling overhead and mentioned that he tried to stay out of sight. Despite that, Henyard did just the opposite. He voluntarily walked into a police station to talk. That morning, around 9 a.m., just hours after the kidnapping and around the same time that the girls were found, Henyard went to meet his auntie at a laundromat located right next to the same Winn-Dixie where Dorothy and the girls had been abducted. His auntie and his friend had been inside the Winn-Dixie and heard officers talking about the kidnapping and a possible reward for information. The friend had previously given tips to law enforcement for money, so her interest was immediately piqued. In front of them, Henyard mentioned that he knew something about the crime. So after they finished their laundry, the friend and Henyard drove to her house to drop the laundry off, and then at that point he asked her to bring him to a friend's house. That friend would be later identified as Smalls. She didn't hear what they talked about, but on the way back, they drove past the crime scene, prompting Henyard to ask her to take him to the police station. When they arrived at the station, Henyard told officers, without being prompted, that he hadn't done anything, but he did have information that might help. In his first interview, police saw him as a witness. Henyard told him that around 1 a.m. he was picked up by Alfonza Smalls and another teen named Emmanuel Jan in a blue Chrysler. According to Henyard, the three went to a nightclub. While there, Henyard claimed that Smalls and Jan told him that they shot a woman and 2 kids. He said he didn't have a way to get home, so he ended up staying with them at the club until around 4:30 or 5 a.m. He admitted that his fingerprints would likely be in the car, but said that was only because he was with his friend, and since he was on probation, he wanted to get in front of any misunderstandings. But the more he talked, the more his story didn't add up. At one point, officers asked him directly if he committed the crime, and he denied it. But then one of the officers noticed blood spots on Henyard's socks and shoes. When he was confronted with these details, Henyard changed his story. This time, Henyard admitted that he and Smalls had gone to the Winn-Dixie. He said they both carjacked Dorothy at gunpoint. He was the one driving, but Smalls was giving him the directions to the rural road. Once they stopped, Henyard said Smalls forced Dorothy out of the vehicle and actually assaulted her. Henyard admitted that after that he did too. When Dorothy reached for the gun, Henyard said he shot her in their leg, claiming, of course, it was accidental, but after some back and forth, he eventually shooting her at least 2 more times. Henyard said that they left her on the side of the road, and as far as the children, who were terrified and they were crying for their mother, they were still in the back seat. From there, they drove about 400 yards, and Henyard said that Smalls took the girls out of the car and shot them. Henyard claimed he did not fire the shots at the girls, but admitted he helped move their bodies over a barbed wire fence. While all this was happening at the police station, 2 of Smalls' sisters approached a police officer and said that their mother wanted to talk. While police visited the Smalls' home, they learned that Smalls was involved and he was brought to the station for questioning. The questioning continued. Officers spoke with Henyard's grandfather, Luther Reed, who said that his .22 caliber handgun was missing and that he believed his grandson Henyard took it. And on February 4th, 1993, police searched the Smalls family home and found the missing gun that was linked to the shootings. They also searched the home where Henyard had spent the night before. They found his jacket there with blood on it, and inside the pockets of the jacket were Dorothy's car keys. Multiple people came forward with concerning details about Henyard's behavior leading up to the shootings. One person saying that shortly before the crime, Henyard told her that he wanted to go to a nightclub in Orlando and then to go see his father. He showed her a small black handgun and said that he planned to steal a car, kill the owner, and put the body in the trunk. Another witness said Henyard had showed him a gun on January 30th and asked him to help commit a robbery. He declined to do so, but said Henyard mentioned needing a car and suggesting targeting either a hospital or the Winn-Dixie. Both Henyard and Smalls were given voice stress analysis tests, and when both were asked if they shot the girls, Henyard's result indicated he was lying when he denied it, while Smalls' results suggested that he was telling the truth when asked. Of course, those tests aren't exactly reliable, so take it with a grain of salt. But on January 16th, 1993, a grand jury indicted Richard Henyard and Alfonza Smalls. The charges include armed kidnapping, armed sexual battery, armed first-degree murder, armed robbery, and 2 counts of first-degree murder. During the grand jury proceedings, 2 of Small's sisters testified. One of his sisters, who was just 15, stated that she saw Henyard leaving their home the night of the crime with blood on his clothes. His other sister, who was 17, shared that she had been dating 16-year-old Emmanuel and that they had been at the house watching movies when Henyard came to their home and called Jan outside. Jan would later be convicted as accessory after the fact. He was found to have provided clean clothes to Henyard and Smalls after the murder. He had served about 1 year following that conviction. Henyard already had a criminal record. At 14, he'd been charged with armed robbery in an incident involving 2 other teens and a stick, which led to the classification of armed robbery. Now, because both Henyard and Smalls admitted to assaulting Dorothy, but each blamed the other for killing the girls, they were granted separate trials, with Henyard's trial starting on May 23, 1994. Prosecutors presented Henyard's full confession in which he admitted to carjacking, rape, and shooting Dorothy. Forensic evidence also linked him directly to the weapon used, which was the gun stolen from his grandfather. Dorothy would testify in both trials, telling the court that during the attack, she had sat in the backseat of the car with her daughters praying. According to her, Henyard told her, "This isn't Jesus, this is Satan." DNA evidence confirmed Henyard had assaulted her. The prosecution argued that the fatal bullets came from the gun Henyard had stolen and that he had been seen with the weapon matching the description before the murders. Blood evidence on his clothing matched the victim's, and batter on Henyard's jacket was consistent with being 4 feet from Jamilya when she was shot. In contrast, blood patterns on Small's trousers was more consistent with him moving or dragging the body rather than firing a gun. On June 2nd, 1994, after fewer than 3 hours of deliberation, the jury found Henyard guilty on all charges, and of course he showed no visible reaction when the verdict was read. The following day, on June 3rd, the jury unanimously recommended the death penalty. Henyard's mother later told the media, "I hate the loss of 2 children for the Lewis family. I hate it with a passion. I hate that my son was in it. I just want them, the Lewis family, to know that I'm sorry." Richard Henyard was officially sentenced to death on August 19, 1994. Alfonza Smalls' trial began on October 17, 1994. Over the course of 3 days, the jury heard much of the same evidence presented in Henyard's trial. Smalls' defense argued that he had a low IQ and was coerced by Henyard out of fear for his own life. But the state countered that with specific actions that demonstrated Smalls' participation completely in this, such as he followed Dorothy to her car and was the one that showed her the gun in his waistband. He ordered her and the girls in the back seat. He told the girls to keep quiet. He also pushed Henyard to hurry up for his turn to assault her, and he helped move the girl's body. And under Florida law at the time, anyone involved with a felony, such as kidnapping or armed robbery that results in a death, can be charged in first-degree murder, even if they didn't fire the weapon. So with that, on August 21st, 1994, Smalls was convicted on all charges: the 2 counts of first-degree murder, 3 counts of kidnapping, 1 count of armed robbery, 1 count of attempted murder, and 1 count of sexual battery. Because Smalls was just 14 years old at the time of his crime, he was not eligible for the death penalty. Instead, he was given 8 life terms, 1 for each count he was convicted of. His mother later told reporters that she didn't believe her son killed those girls, claiming he had told her that directly. And at one point, she even said Henyard forced her son to assault Dorothy at gunpoint. Richard Henyard would spend 15 years on death row, and during that time, he only had one visitor: his godmother. Then, on July 8, 2008, the governor signed Henyard's death warrant. His attorney attempted to file a last-minute appeal claiming another inmate could provide testimony suggesting that Henyard may not have been the one to pull the trigger. This appeal was denied, though, and Henyard was executed by lethal injection on September 23, 2008. He offered no final words, and he was pronounced dead at 8:16 p.m. Dorothy Lewis said through a statement released by her husband, shared her thoughts on that day. She said, "I still don't have the feeling of resolution. This day has not brought any closure to my life. Taking the life of Mr. Henyard is not going to revive my daughters." Years after his conviction, Alfonza Smalls was resentenced due to a U.S. Supreme Court ruling that declared mandatory life sentences for juveniles unconstitutional. The court released that adolescents' brains are still developing, making them more susceptible to impulsive decisions violent and risky behavior. While in prison, Smalls had a documented history of disciplinary abuse. He received 14 formal reports and 52 warnings, most for refusing to report to work, but one of those was for fighting. There doesn't appear to be any public news coverage detailing the outcome of his resentencing hearing. However, according to the Florida Department of Corrections, Smalls remains sentenced to life in prison. Given the brutal nature of this crime, it's likely that the court upheld his original sentence. Now, following the shooting, Dorothy spent some time trying to understand why this happened, why her attackers chose to shoot them even though she followed their demands. She was looking for something that she could take from this tragedy, something she could learn. And I think that's a lot of people who are interested in true crime feel this way, that there is something to learn. She began experiencing neurology issues as a result of her injuries, but she's able to manage this with medication. Dorothy initially lived with a family member after attack, but eventually returned home with her brother moving in to help support her. 17 months after her attack, she married a man named Hugh. She returned to work as a school teacher, and about 5 years after the incident, she gave birth to a son. Dorothy chose to keep her last name, Lewis, as a way to honor her daughters. Now, I want to ask you, do you believe justice was truly served in this case? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But that wraps up what I have for this case. Please make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. It really helps me out. And until the next video, stay safe out there. The world's an ugly place.